Hey, good evening and welcome to the regular city council meeting for Monday, May 13th of 2019. At this time, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Condit.
Here.
Councilmember DeRossett.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rhino.
Here.
Councilmember Klein.
Here.
And Mayor Vieira.
Here. Next, we will have the invocation by, is it Jim Stockholm? Okay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thanks for allowing me to pray. Would you join me? Gracious God and loving Father, we thank you for the many abundant blessings that we experience, for weather, a beautiful place to live and to work, for good neighbors, for the achievements of our children. We give you thanks. We give you thanks for the opportunity to participate in decision-making processes with our elected officials. We're grateful for the many blessings that we experience, but we're also mindful of the many challenges we face. So we pray for our mayor and for this assembled council, for the many city workers charged with carrying out policies. Grant them the steadfast courage of their convictions and yet the openness to see things in new ways. Pray for the agenda set before them tonight. May what is said and done here please you and benefit those who live and work around our beloved city of Ceres, for all of our thriving and joy. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have one special presentation this evening, a presentation of certificates of recognition to the Flores brothers, title winners at the National Silver Gloves Championship and first place winners in their respective divisions at the USA Boxing Junior Olympics Central California Association District Championships. We've been told Mr. Collins can give us a little bit of some background on these, if you would.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to introduce you to Damian Flores Sr., the proud father of the three boxing champs that you made reference to. And instead of me giving you the story, I'd like to have you hear it from the horse's mouth. So I'd like to bring up Damian Flores Sr.
How you doing, Mayor and Council? Damian Flores, their trainer, their advocate. We represent the city of Ceres when we go out on the road, and a lot of work. And we're a Stanislaus County affiliate now, PAL. Since we've been going on the road since December, USA Nationals in Utah, LA, both in the month of December, Silver Glove State, Silver Gloves Regional in January, and then January, February, the Nationals and Silver Gloves in Independence, Missouri. And my little one, he has won a gold medal in March for USA, for the guys that are qualifying for the Olympic team going to 2020 Olympics. And he's a gold medalist. He won number one in his weight and respective category, and then they all qualified for steps. So April was a district. We went to Title Nationals. They won a national title there, and then we finished 2 weeks ago with the region to qualify for Madison, Wisconsin Junior Olympic Nationals. So those are the steps that we took to get there, and now they're going to go compete to be number one in the nation as well. So as far as that, my 12-year-old Damian Flores, he's a one-time national champion. Andre's a three-time, the 11-year-old right here, he's a three-time national champion, gold medalist, and a world champion. And my little one, 8 years old, just started boxing September. It was his first fight. He's 12 fights in, and he's a two-time national champion and a gold medalist also. So when we come, we represent our town proudly. And, there's times that we've taken losses, but we held our head high and came back and still got them. So, show the council. These are the belts they won. Hold them up so you can stand over here, guys. Those are the title national belts they won at the end of April.
Very impressive.
Thank you. So, their story is mother's here. She's fighting breast cancer, as you can see. Our struggle and our day-to-day is we're blessed because she's still here, and we're trying to reach out to our community, because now it's just not only Andre that you see in the paper, it's all three of them now, and to emphasize the support that we need for our programs. It'd be nice if we had one here in series, boxing program in series, but unfortunately we go to Modesto, which is still Stanislaus County, but the support that we need, and the youth that I coach there and teach boxing, it's imperative that we get help from the community, the public, to raise money to provide the service, because we never know. I see a couple pieces of coal in there, and you might crack it open, and there's a diamond in there, just like my boys. They're diamonds, and they just need to be polished up and shined up, and I promise you that these boys will make you proud, and they're going to continue their journey, and hopefully go to college, go to the Olympics, whatever God guides them to. I just pray that they go to a Division I school and or become an Olympian or whatever. But so that's my goal for the boys, and they know the road they got to get to get there. So that's our agenda and just to make the public aware of the need for public support to the program, because we're going to go in June 23rd, and every time we go, when we go to these functions, it costs money, and we have to raise money to keep the program going and to be successful. And as coaches should worry about coaching, and kids should be worried about training and not being able to say, well, we can't go because of money. And that's the dilemma we have as far as, when we try to, we make it happen, but, that it's getting harder and harder. But they're hungry, and it's showing that they're proving. It's just not Andre, because at first it was just Andre. But now these guys, Damon are coming along, and they've stepped up in a major way, and now it's proven, all three of them. And like I said, there's other kids in the gym that got the potential too. It's just getting them the funding and ability to participate in these events.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I do have some certificates of recognition. So I would like to present one to Damian, Andre, and Damian Lewis. And it says, in honor, achievements at the National Silver Gloves Tournament and the U.S. Boxing Junior Olympic Central California Association District Championships. Congratulations for your outstanding achievement. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to citizens' communication to council on matters not included on the agenda. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in City Council meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes for expression of non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the City Council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the City Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Citizens are entitled to address the City Council on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. At this time, is there anyone that would like to address the council on a non-agenda item? If so, please come forth and state your name for the record.
Dave Pratt of Ceres. As you know, I belong to the Stanislaus County Veterans Employment Committee, and we're doing our 4th stand down in Modesto, October 31st. Try to get the homeless veterans off the streets. And I'm asking, you're planning on reducing the bus fares for a whole month, and I want to ask if I can have you set one day aside for October 31st so we can try to get a homeless there, so a chance to get them off the streets. So basically that's what I'm at on that. Later on, I've got to do work with Toby about doing a presentation, PowerPoint presentation on one of these meetings later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Gene Yakeley Series. The last council meeting, I had a short conversation with, I think I got his name right, Sergeant Coley. And it had to do with the new code enforcement that's, I guess he's already hired. And I said something about, well, that's a great thing that we have the money to do that now. And he agreed we needed more in code enforcement. And then I said, well, with this new code enforcement, is there going to be some kind of staggering where we get weekends? Because weekends is a big problem here in Ceres, and the people that do offend or go against the municipal codes, they kind of go against that on weekends. It seems more prevalent than during the week. Not that they don't need any help during the week. They need all the help they can get. But weekends need to be tackled as far as I'm concerned, as soon as possible. I mean, we're enacting all these things. Why don't we start this and do the weekends as soon as we can get them started? I'm not sure what the time period is for this gentleman to finish his critique on what he's supposed to do in his job, or if that individual came on with the city and agreed he wouldn't do weekends. But with all the other city employees, I guess they do weekends too. I mean, if the police department didn't do weekends, we'd have one hell of a problem. And we already got one hell of a problem with code enforcement not being out there on the weekends. If we tackle that, then we're ahead of where we're not now. And another thing on the code enforcement was the sign issues that I brought many times on utility poles. Nobody in the city seems to know who owns them or who's responsible for them. If Mr. Mayor knocks down a telephone pole, who are you gonna pay? We don't know. Is it TID or PG&E? So I mentioned the signs again to Sergeant Coley, and what can we do? He says, well, you can take them down yourself. And I said, nah, I don't think that's a good idea, because if you make contact with somebody who's been putting them up everywhere, there could be some confrontation there. So another source was to have code enforcement, possibly we could have a volunteer system like Dave does with, I guess, the highway or something like that. Yeah, where they once a month or twice a month or something try to get some volunteers to come out. I'll volunteer to drive my truck around. I don't know about climbing a 10-foot pole to get some of these signs down, but if we can do that, that's going to make another dent and probably send a message to some of those people. They put them up, we're going to take them down. So whoever gets tired first. And if we have enough, if I can go out there all the time, I won't get tired, not driving around anyway. And if somebody can yank those signs down, we'll just yank them down as soon as they put them up. All right, thank you.
Go ahead and come forward.
I got
Okay, can we get your name for the record, please?
Tim King. I got this notice at 3012 Delano Avenue, and what it is, it says that my garbage cans are a public nuisance. These items are stored in areas visible to the public rights of way or neighboring properties, or creating a condition which is detrimental to the public health safety. That's the second part of it. The cans go right against my garage door. I worked for Bert Bertolotti, for 22 years, and I never had this ever put on my door. But it says on 520 I could actually be cited for this. So where do you want the cans at?
It's in the back.
They're up. My cans, when I get off work on Thursday, I get off work at 3:30 or 4:30 during this time of the year, and I pull them straight back up to my garage. So where do you want the cans at?
Mr. Wild?
Under the city's municipal code, the cans are required to be stored out of sight of the public. So that means in the garage
So
or
are
in the
you
side yard.
saying that I should have to pull those cans in the back through my gate in the back of my house?
Either in the backyard or in the garage. That is what the municipal code says.
And let's
Do you have a
continue
picture
on.
that you might be able to share where you store those?
They're right against the garage door. I mean, and the other one is that it's in a place that's in public view and it may harm the public. How does my garbage cans being at least 30 feet from the when I have pictures here of the other people that in my neighborhood in Larrynell Avenue. They just leave their cans out there for 3 days, but nobody wants to get on them. What is that? I mean, seriously,
So yours go back in it and,
mine go back in that day.
okay.
Because I worked for Bertolotti for 22 years.
Okay.
Went to work for JS West, just tried to change it up.
Let's
And
see
do
if we
something
can
different.
get his information and we can, review it and see.
I'm Melinda King, I'm his wife. Okay, so what he's upset about is we've been lived there for almost 10 years. And we've always put our cans up on our third garage.
We
up
own
on
our
the si-
house.
Up to the side, and we've never had any problems.
Sure.
This is the first time we've had this ordinance, and yes, I get the idea that it's supposed to be on the side of the
What
house.
what
but he was just
what
shook up
frightens
because it was-
me is that by 5/20/19, I guess I could be fined for this.
In 9
what
years,
is-
we never had
what
any
does that
problem.
mean?
And that's where he's a little upset about.
Yeah,
And
would- if-
we really don't care about our neighbors because you guys will be
We
responsible for
have
taking care of them.
pictures of guys that leave their cans out there for 3 days.
I know I've had some in my
You
neighborhood
really
as
want to
well.
come down on me over this?
Yeah, so I would just like to see if we can get some pictures of that and work through. So if you could give,
Right there.
if you could give the clerk your name and contact information, I'll reach out to you and see what we can do.
It doesn't make sense that you want me to pull my cans in my backyard.
But like I said, I don't know, until I see, I don't have a solution because I don't know what you're talking about.
Where
so.
the cans are put at is at least,
No, I understand that, but I'd like to kind of see it if we could. And so if you can give them the contact information, then we'll kind of look into it a little bit further.
okay? But are you doing everything else about everybody else
it's,
Well, right now I want to help your situation, so let's address that first.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the council on a non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to appointments to boards and commissions. We have none this evening. Conflict of interest declaration. Is there anyone on the council that would like to declare a conflict of interest on any of the consent calendar new business items? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or public for special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendation of staff will be accepted and acted upon by roll call vote. At this time, is there anyone on the council that would like to have a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion?
8 and 9.
Okay. All right, anyone in the audience that would like to have a consent calendar?
Sorry, Mr. 5, letter B, and number 11.
You said 5B and 11?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there anyone in the audience who would like to have a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion other than 5B, 8, 9, or 11? I'm sorry, who was that? 6. Anyone else? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back to the council for direction on the other items.
Move to approve 1, 2, 3A, 4, 5A, and 7.
And 10.
And 10, thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit,
Aye.
Councilmember DeRossa,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
and Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item number 5B, general correspondence, redevelopment and economic development department monthly report for April. Councilmember Condit?
Is Mr. Hallam here to give his report tonight?
No, he's not.
I'll reserve my comments for next meeting when Mr. Hallam's here. So I move to approve item number 5, letter B.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit,
Aye.
Councilmember DeRossa,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
and Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item number 6, resolution number 2019-47, requesting a new public road connection at Service Road to State Route 99. Mr. Pratt?
Dave Pratt, sir, is this just part of what you had, a motion to continue to get the interchange put in?
Yes, the California Transportation Commission requires, with the new interchange, when you'll have access to State Route 99, we have to ask their permission for the new freeway entrance at Service Road.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Anyone in the audience? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for direction.
Move to adopt resolution number 6, resolution 2019-47.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit,
Aye.
Councilmember DeRossa,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
and Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item number 8, resolution number 2019-49, authorization to apply for the 2019 CAL FIRE Rural Fire Assistance 50/50 grant. Vice Mayor Rhino?
I have a couple clarification questions. How many of our current BC vehicles have, well, first of all, how many BC vehicles do we have?
Oh, we have one BC vehicle.
And then we are getting another BC vehicle, so we'll have 2?
Once we get the new one, I will get the old one.
Okay. Currently, do all of our apparatus have the 2 different types of radio in them?
No, they don't.
Okay, so the ones for the grant are specifically for rural areas?
Yes.
And the rural areas, is that basically for strike teams?
That's a big part of it, yes.
And we need to fill out the application because the period ends May the 21st, and Ceres Fire Protection District can't meet until after that to say whether or not they'll go 50-50 on it.
Yes.
Well, I think that public safety always should have the best equipment. The only thing that really bothers me is that we don't know if Ceres Fire Protection will pick up the, how much was it, $15,000. And if we apply for it, and then we are successful, and then it comes back to us and we have to award the contract, and we don't have the money to do it, I'm just afraid we're going to run into the situation that we have previously with the fire department and grants, and there's a lot of public outreach that they've done in the past because we would not extend a grant. That's my concern by applying for it. Those are my only comments.
It would take council action to accept the grant. If we receive the grant, it would take council action to accept the grant. At that point in time, we would know the answer from Ceres Fire Protection District and know exactly what our match would be. If, for example, they didn't know it, this would be a likely item that we've used in the past as being matching funds from Measure H. So it would be a likely funding source if Ceres Fire Protection District wasn't able to.
So we have the money in Measure H? Because we haven't even really had a discussion yet on our budget, and that's my concern.
That's Thursday. Thursday we'll have that budget, but there is sufficient, there's projected fund balance in Measure H that is relatively healthy as it stands today. We will cover that in detail on Thursday.
Councilmember Klein?
Vice Mayor Rhino, I had the same concerns you did have, and I did reach out to Chief Weiss and ask them about the Fire Protection District, and apparently they have around $35,000 in their reserve. They just have to go before their board to see if they're gonna participate in for this grant, but they needed the approval for us to apply for the grant. And once we apply for the grant, we still have the opportunity whether we want to accept it or not. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I did have the same concerns, but I mean, it's that process that I think we need to go through. And if the Fire Protection District decides they don't want to participate in this, then, there might be other avenues or we can take, because they're the ones that's going to benefit, really more so than the city will.
But they could benefit by letting us foot the bill for it as well.
Well, that's true, but we can also decide not to accept the grant and go from there.
Any other questions? At this point, I'll open up the public. Is there anyone who would like to comment on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it back to the council for more discussion or direction.
Move to approve resolution number 2019-49.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Aye.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item number 9, resolution number 2019-50, amending the city's classification plan to create the classification of senior engineering technician and authorizing the city manager to open a recruitment for a senior civil engineer, associate engineer, and senior engineering technician prior to the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget adoption. Vice Mayor Rhino?
I'm going to go back to my budget concerns again, that we have not adopted a budget. We haven't even had a discussion yet, and hopefully we'll adopt one next month, but I don't know how we can approve and recruit for these positions without knowing what our finances are.
These positions are non-general funded between water and sewer. The challenging part, we have an employee who's working as a consultant who has about 30-plus years of experience within the city and knowledge of our engineering department, who has notified us that he is going to be ending his retiring again. And so that's creating a little bit of a need sooner than we would have hoped. So we're trying to expedite the process to get more operational capacity in the engineering department, and we're asking to create the senior engineering technician position, start the recruitment. We wouldn't hire anybody until after July. We're trying to get a 2-month head start on that recruitment process because, as the mayor knows, the engineering world is quite competitive these days. We do expect that recruitment process to take a bit of time. We'd like to get a head start on that recruitment process so that we can make the hire on July 1 to be able to hit the ground running with these positions that are intimately and very important to continue delivering the projects with the dedicated funding sources that we now have that we haven't had in the past, which is Measure L for our road projects and SB1, both giving us about $2 million a year in funding that we need to make sure we can deliver, and we need staff in order to do that. So that's a long-winded answer of the sooner is better to try and get these bodies. And again, they're not general fund positions. They are both funded out of sewer and water.
Councilmember Condit?
Sure. Just for clarification, how many engineers does the city currently have?
Engineering positions or licensed engineers?
Licensed engineers.
Licensed engineers, 2. Myself and Mr. Badia are the only 2 licensed engineers.
And what type of projects will they be working on specifically?
Well, the positions, depending on who we hire, what we're asking for is to recruit for 3, and we would hire 2, depending on the level of their qualifications in the application. If they were licensed, i.e. a senior civil engineer, they would be more at the higher level, managing the more complex project. Senior technician is likely going to be in the lower end. Managing projects, that would include inspection, construction management, project management on the front end. For the most part, we use consultants for the design aspect of most of our projects.
Okay. And how will the interview process be conducted?
It would be a standard interview process that our HR department runs.
Okay, we do a panel?
Yeah, generally application process followed by an application panel or interview panel, and then a final selection that will be made by the city engineer.
And are we going to be recruiting externally or internally?
Externally.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Mr. Wells, the person that's leaving, is he a city employee, or is he paid through a consultant?
He's technically still on the books as a city employee, but he is being paid through a consultant.
So if that's the case, why couldn't the consultant supply someone until we've approved our budget?
If they had somebody to supply, they would, but they don't.
And this is for 3 positions or 2?
So there's 2 actions that are being requested. 1, the creation of the senior engineering technician, the creation of that job classification. So that's the first step. The second thing we're asking for is to open recruitments for the 3 different positions. We would only hire 2, depending on the applicant pool. Where we got the best applicant for is what we hire for.
Okay, so if you decide to hire the senior engineering tech, and you already have 2 engineering techs, and then that would leave you with 1 other person to...
So the way we're going to budget for the engineering technician positions, as you know, there's engineering tech 1, 2, and then if this is approved, there would be senior. There would be 1 job series, and so if you looked on the budget for classification, there would be X number of that series, and we would hire depending on what we got qualification-wise.
Okay, yes. Again, since we don't know what our budget is, why couldn't you, as soon as this person leaves, you could allow one of your 2 engineering techs to cover to see if, and you would have to pay them for out of class, but that would be cheaper than
we're behind
recruiting and everything else.
But we're behind as it is. So the idea is we need to be delivering projects, and we need more bodies to do that.
And you think that you can recruit and get somebody on board that soon?
The goal would be to start that recruitment as soon as possible and get them in here in July versus waiting until the budget's approved on July 1 and then starting the recruitment process.
Well, don't we approve the budget before July 1?
June 10th, but it's not effective until July 1. So I would still have to ask for us to start the recruitment.
But if we approve it June 10th, then the recruitment could start then.
It's a month. We're asking for a month head start.
Okay, instead of having staff start a recruitment, then we have our discussion about the budget, and there isn't 3 council members that agree that we want to fill those positions, so then basically you've wasted staff time in a recruitment that we aren't even going to go forward with.
That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
I think what I'm hearing Mr. Wells say is I can appreciate your comments, and if we were talking about the general fund, I'd be a little more concerned about it. But if we choose not to fund these positions, there's a bigger discussion about the CIP projects that we have on the books, and if we choose not to hire these people to get them done, then we have to make a conscious decision that we might not be doing some projects that we feel are important to do. So, I mean, I can understand waiting. Good luck in him finding somebody in 6 months for these positions. I can tell you that right now. And I don't know what he's going to pay the senior civil engineer, but I can tell you the salary that I see even for the other guys here. Again, good luck. My firm's right now, if I could hire 3 people, I would, and I can't find anybody. So,
hence why we're asking for the time, because we recognize time is of the essence, and the more time we have to create this process, because it likely will be difficult. Having the senior engineering technician gives us another breadth of likely someone who's not licensed but has some experience that we may be able to draw in, which is what we're hoping for with the creation of that position.
Councilmember Klein?
I listened to the comments that are up here, but, I go back and I have a little bit of concern because, and maybe I'm thinking in the wrong direction, but how did we fund the fire apparatus? Out of what funds?
Sewer fund. Currently has a balance of around 13 million. We borrowed 2.8.
Okay, so that's the reason I brought it up, because of the concerns with the budget that we're going to be going through to see where the balance was on the budget. So that was a concern of mine. I understand with all the projects that are coming along, with interchange at Service and Mitchell, those things are going to be weighing heavy on the city once this thing gets going within hopefully within the next year and a half or so. I understand where Mr. Wells, the city manager, wants to go to Mr. Wells. I think I'd be a little more comfortable if we could put off the recruitment for a month for the adoption of the budget and start the recruitment in June after the adoption of the budget before it takes effect in July. I think everybody up here would have a little bit more time to voice their concerns and comments with the budget. So that's the direction I would like to go. So,
Councilmember Drossett?
Yeah, I think we're tying city manager's Toby's hands. I mean, again, if we're going to be waiting until July 1st to do this recruitment, which we already know, as listening to the mayor, that it's going to be very difficult, at least we're going to have a jump start. I'd hate to have some roadblock happen and have to do a detour because, something with Walmart was going to take place, but we didn't have somebody that could actually do that at that time, which needed to have that project done. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, he's the expert engineer. He knows what the city needs, right? And the city needs to have this position, and this gentleman's leaving. And so, I'm just a physical education teacher. I couldn't tell you what an engineer is going to be doing, but I know that having my conversations with Toby is that it's something that he needs, and it's not general fund money. So it's not going to affect whatsoever. And I appreciate what everybody's saying, but at the end of the day, I think this is a no-brainer.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Well, I think Councilmember Klein brought up a good point about the sewer fund, because, again, we haven't discussed how much money is in there and what all we're going to be paying from the sewer fund. But on the service road interchange, Mr. Wells, how much of actual city time is spent on that versus consultant?
Currently, I've been managing that project, so current staff up to this date has not been much of engineering staff because I've been managing it. But the consultant is the lion's share of the work, but it will as we get into the design aspect, it will take more and more staff time.
And that more and more staff time could take effect after we've looked at the budget and decided whether or how much we could afford to, how many other additional employees we could hire. It could wait till June 10th.
The interchange is a long, ongoing project. Not as worried about that project as I am about the Measure L projects. Those Measure L projects and the SB1 projects are much more immediate and much more needed to spend those monies now, because that's what we promised the voters on the House sales tax, to deliver those projects. So those are the projects that are much more higher priority and critical in our, from our staffing perspective.
Again, it's May 13th. We either adopt the budget or we don't on June the 10th, and I think that I would feel more comfortable if we have our discussion on the budget and we talk about all the different funds.
Okay, any other comments on this item before I open it up to the public? All right, at this time, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council. Again, for me, if it's that big of an issue, I personally can wait. I appreciate the city manager wanting to move forward with the projects that we want him to get done and that we've promised the tax-paying public. But if the council feels that they want to take a look at the overall budget before they do it, I guess I don't have a problem with that. I don't really see it changing much. Again, if we were talking about the general fund budget portion, then yes, I could definitely see this. But this is coming from enterprise funds, and there is a certain obligation that we have to deliver on some of these projects. And, it's sad to say, it's like my firm, at a point I've got to tell somebody that they can't meet the delivery that they would like because there's just too many people drawing on too many resources, and that's a challenge. So I can understand where they're coming from. I mean, I could support this, but if the council wants to wait, then we can do that as well. So at this point, I'll look for direction or a motion.
Move to approve resolution number 2019-50.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Nay.
Councilmember DeRosset?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
No.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
Okay, item number 11, set public hearing date of May 28, 2019 for the City Council to consider a proposal involving an amendment to the existing general plan designation of the property located at 3106 Mitchell Road. A conditional use permit and a vesting tentative parcel map were previously approved by the Planning Commission for the construction of 2 retail commercial shop buildings, 15,300 square feet and 13,800 square feet each, and 145-unit apartment complex on the 3 proposed parcels. Councilmember Condit?
Sure. I was just would like to get some historical context on this. What was wrong with the original project?
Excuse me, can we address this, or we're just setting the public date? I don't know if we can get into details. Let me ask the legal counsel. We can? Okay, sorry.
The gentleman who proposed the project said that he was having a hard time marketing it, so he came up with a new proposal.
Okay. What was his original proposal?
Around 100,000 square feet of retail buildings and maybe 6 buildings total on that site.
So all retail, no?
It was a 100% retail project. Retail, office, fast food. It could have been a number of uses.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone in the audience that like to address this? Okay, I'll bring back to council for either more discussion or direction. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm probably on the other side of this thing. Gene Akeley series. It's very disturbing there to even them asking for an amendment to this when originally it was all commercial. And I just hope that when they do bring this up, if this is coming up on May 28th, that the council members consider that, and the 145 units of apartments there, If you lived here long enough, that's what we don't need. And you know very well if apartments go in there, it's going to turn into what most of them turn into that were nice at one time. So I hope that you guys study this quite a bit and put your heart into it. That area over there should solely be commercial for stuff coming off the highway and attracting people to get some revenue from sales tax or whatever we can get from them. But the problems we've had in previous years or for many years with putting in complexes, apartments, it just draws the wrong clientele. Not that they're not nice people, but they have no respect or pride in where they live, and this is just going to open it up for more to come in. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for direction.
Move to set the public hearing date for May 28, 2019.
I'll second that then. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Nay.
Councilmember Durasett?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, we have no unfinished business this evening, no public hearing, new business. Item number 12, resolution number 2019-52, approving the execution of a water service agreement between the City of Ceres and the K.S. Matson Partners LP, Ceres West Mobile Home Park. Mr. Wells?
Thank you, Mayor Vieira, City Council. As the council may recall, this is a long-going conversation over the past 3 years where the council has considered on several different occasions the request from the Ceres West Mobile Home Park located near the intersection of Grayson and Central Avenue, just south of the city limits in the unincorporated area of Stanislaus County, to supply potable drinking water to their mobile home park. The mobile home is a privately owned facility that has run into some water quality challenges with their on-site well. Water quality issues such as nitrates, arsenics, and most recently 123 TCP has created a system that is not able to be treated to drinking water standards. Over a process of working with both Stanislaus County, the state of California, they have come up with a study that indicated the best option, and really the option that would be supported by the state, is a connection to the City of Ceres. The agreement that we've crafted per council's direction last September is modeled after the Monterey Park Track agreement that was approved by council several years ago. That agreement is put in place, if approved by council, with a number of safeguards to protect the city in the instance of both the deed restriction and the ability to hold the owner responsible for the maintenance of the facilities. The connection point to the City of Ceres would be at the existing city main, which is located about 3,000 feet to the north of the mobile home park at the intersection of Central and Redwood. That is an area where the Ceres Unified School District also connected for their water connection. That was a similar arrangement, but was not done with a agreement of this nature because it was with the district and is approved by LAFCO. This one, because of it outside of the area, is the only mechanism that is available to us is using this agreement, which would then lead to an approval by LAFCO for the out-of-boundary service. Then they would construct it. They would pay for all improvements necessary to make the connection to our city facilities to provide potable drinking water to the mobile home units. The agreement has taken a number of months to put together and working with legal staff on both sides. We feel the agreement protects the city's interest. This is not something that the city staff was willingly interested in. However, as this council knows, the state of California was ready to have a public hearing and force the consolidation, i.e. force us to make this connection, and we would not have been able to get all of our issues mitigated as best as we can. We feel this agreement is in better shape than what we would have been mandated to do by the state of California. So the staff is recommending approval of this agreement on the basis of that backdrop, that the state is forcing us. We don't really have a good option. If this agreement is not approved, the state will take action to force the consolidation, and we will be required to provide water to the mobile home park. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions of staff? Vice Mayor Rhino?
Does this affect our ratepayers at all?
Not directly. I mean, indirectly it could potentially, but we do feel like we have enough water in terms of our system. Our surface water project would provide that for it, so ultimately the rates charged to them would offset any impacts. So that's what we've designed in the agreement, is to mitigate any impacts to our ratepayers.
And if we didn't approve it, then the state could come in and they could tell us that we're still going to do it, but then they're going to set the conditions.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilmember Condit?
Sure, I was just curious. Why was this responsibility given to the city and not the county?
We asked that question many, many times. And why isn't it the state's responsibility? Yeah, and that's one of the big challenges with this, is the fact that the county has land use authority, and the county is who approved this mobile home park in the first place. But the county doesn't operate a water system. The county doesn't have anything that they do related to water. So as the nearest available public water system that has the capacity to serve it, the state has found that they look to us to help disadvantaged communities and those that don't have the resources to supply their own needs.
Sure. And who exactly will be paying for this project?
The owner of the property will be paying for the construction aspect.
And what if the owner defaults on his payment? What happens?
So the way the agreement is set up, there is a $15,000 deposit that he is making with the approval of this agreement that will go into the city account as a backstop for that. So we'd have a $15,000 cushion if he's not able to make the payment. If he ultimately doesn't make the payment and extinguishes that deposit, then we would have the ability to turn off the water.
And there's no long-term cost to the city whatsoever?
We've mitigated that as best we can.
Okay.
Can I say with 100% certainty there would never be a cost? I can't say that, but the agreement has put those provisions in place to assure holding the owner responsible for the long-term maintenance costs, and any of those issues that come up, he would be on the hook for those.
Okay, thank you.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. This is bad policy. We already have a track record with someone else who came to us begging and pleading for us to provide them with water because what they had was beyond horrific. So we reached out, we provided them with water, and no good deed goes unpunished. Now we're being the poster child for supplying water to an agency or quasi-agency that says we're providing them with tainted water. I've never been a big fan of this. I mean, I believe in supplying people with quality water, but I believe this usurps the whole planning process we have by, on one hand, we decide we can't supply out of service areas with water, and on the other hand, you either do it or we're going to sue you. So the state speaks out both sides of their mouth, and that I have an issue with. And I want to go on record. I know it's going to happen, just like I said on the other one. Today, they'll be happy that we're providing the water. Years down the road, we'll become the bad guy in some way, shape, or form. Mark my word. I know it. And in the state's infinite wisdom, this is just their way of saying, I'm done with it. You deal with it now. So, I went through the agreement and for the most part, it covers the main concerns that I had, which was obviously the initial cost of the improvements, which, will be borne by the developer or the owner, I should say. And then more importantly, the long-term maintenance and operation. Because I can tell you right now, I don't want the little old family that's living on 5th Street picking up the bill when they don't maintain the water line that goes out to them, and our citizens would have to be burdened on it, because I can see this playing out. That water line gets nicked or something and it's leaking, it needs to be fixed right away. They don't have the funding or something comes along, and we have to dig in our pockets and do it, which legally we really can't do, but you're going to be saying, we need our water, we need our water, we need our water. So again, I'm not been a big fan of this. but, you know, given the way that it's written, I mean, we have some pretty good provisions in here. The one thing I did take a little bit of issue with, and I spoke to the city manager about it, was the water service agreement, where it says owner desires to provide the residents of CWMHP with safe drinking water, but is currently unable to do so because of contaminants. Well, no, that's not true. They could do it, but they've chosen, and it's in all of these reports here, they've chosen not to treat the water themselves and to allow us to provide it. So I would rather that statement say something, owner desires to provide the residents with safe drinking water and has chosen to utilize the city of Ceres as opposed to treating their own well, because that is an option. And it was, identified in the reporting here. So it's not because they can't. And, years from now, somebody will look at this and say, well, they didn't have the option to do that, but they really did. And so this is the one that they chose. So, I don't know if that wording could be changed, but I would like some clarification of that because, again, with us taking this action, we are really helping this development out. And I don't want it to be something where the citizens get duly beat up because we're providing water to them, the same drinking water that all of the rest of the 50,000 constituents here are drinking. Anyway, so those are my only comments.
Yeah, of the options that were studied, there were 4 options that were studied. 2 were dismissed pretty much right off the bat of not viable, i.e. the state wouldn't approve those considerations. The 2 primary alternatives, 1, connection to the city, and 2, treating on-site. The state also, in essence, neglected that as a viable alternative based on their opinion that the smaller, and I use the word public in air quotes, public being serving more than 50 people, that's their definition. So as a result, the small public water system, in the state's opinion, are not viable to manage their own treatment system. So from the state's perspective, this is the only viable option, is connecting to us. Again, this is the whole process of us being with the gun held to our head saying do it or else, and that statement is reflective of that. We asked the state point blank, would they allow that, and they said no.
Funny how that works with what's viable and not when it's only in your own interest, right? Again, you don't get me started on the state. They seem to know what's in everybody's best interest. Any other comments before I open it up to the public? All right, at this time, I'll open it up to the public for anyone that would like to comment on this item.
Dave Pratt of Ceres. I noticed like Eastgate and several others, all of a sudden at the wellheads, they got these huge tanks. What are those?
Wellhead treatment. No. So granule activated carbon is generally what's used for wellhead treatment, treating for those constituents I talked about.
Couldn't these areas do the same thing? Is it cost prohibitive?
That's exactly what we were talking about. As the state does not support those activities for the smaller operated facilities. Yes, the question is yes, they could, but the state does not.
Yeah, put those tanks in for their wellhead and do the same thing instead of hooking up.
That was the other option that was considered, but again, the state is dictating that we as the city are better suited for making those type of, maintaining those types of systems.
All right.
Anyone else?
I'm here to represent the owner of Ceres West Mobile Home Park. My name is Brenda Comfort, and I also have our on-site manager. I understand your position and your concerns, and as Toby Wells had mentioned, this has been a 3 years, very long conversation of so much time spent on this, and we spent a lot of money doing the research and that feasible study, and so I do appreciate him cooperating with us and you guys considering this, and I understand how you guys feel your hands are tied. We really believe this is the best long-term solution, and the study shows that. And so I don't want to waste any more time, but I just want to say thank you very much for the time and effort you guys have put into this, and especially to Toby. He's been the main contact. So on behalf of the owner, thank you.
Again, it's nothing personal against you, because it's just we're opening up Pandora's box, because now there might be 10 others that come, and we're running water lines outside the city limits, which, we've been told, if you want to annex something, you've got to go through the annexation process and studies and everything else. But this one gets CEQA exempt. So again, on one hand, the state wants it one way, and on the other hand, they dictate it another. So I just believe in fairness. That's all.
Right. And I did with the state map out other possible potential issues, and it didn't seem like there would be anybody else in our position that would need this.
Yeah.
John Warren series. What type of fund, you said $15,000 or $50,000 that's being set aside like in an escrow account in case these people don't pay their bill?
15. 1-5.
1.5, yes.
15,000.
1.5.
So what's the cost of the project to establish it and put water in? What's the total cost?
Well, the construction cost is estimated over $1 million. That's covered by them. But the monthly bill is estimated to be somewhere in the $1,000 to $1,500 per month, depending on how much water they use, what time of the year. So the idea that the $15,000 reserve was 6 months worth of unpaid water bills. That's what the reserve was set.
Do
set
these
aside for.
people have $1 million?
The owner has indicated they are able to fund the construction.
Have we verified that?
That's what the agreement is assuring that he has. If he doesn't build it, nothing happens.
Okay, so I guess that's the answer. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would say my concern isn't with the current owner. It's 10 or 15 years from now when that owner sells or something, and then we have an uprising of the people that live there and they don't want to pay anymore. Then it becomes an issue. So, anyone else?
Just a comment, I'm really not in favor of this either, but just by contrast, Monterey Park Track put up a $75,000 deposit instead of $15,000. 15's pretty low.
And the county backstopped it for 20
Yeah.
years. Again, this is a different scenario. That had a public CSD. This does not. This is an arrangement with a private party, which again is an issue that I have with a quasi-public entity. It's a different story. This is a private party. So
I would agree. I always thought that the Water Resources Board was overstepping its bounds on this. But the Monterey Park Track put up $75,000. That's the point I wanted to make.
Yep. Anyone else? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for direction or more discussion.
Move to adopt resolution number 2019-52.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Aye.
Councilmember DeRossett?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes, reluctantly.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira?
Really doesn't matter which way I vote.
Motion passes 5-0.
Sure. Yes. We have no unfinished business this evening. Public hearing, we have none. New business. Oh, I'm sorry. We are on new business. Had me shook there for a bit. Item number 13, Beautification Committee. Mr. Wells?
Thank you, Mayor. As the council may recall, back on March 11th, the council discussed the concept of a beautification committee. Pretty good discussion around the table and here at the dais regarding what that committee would look like. The 5 points are bullet pointed there. Each council member appoints one citizen. The program would run through the end of the year with a year-end review. Framework and guiding principles was discussed. Monthly meetings with bi-monthly reporting to City Council and code enforcement staff involved in the meetings. Staff put together a draft application for council's consideration. The formation of an ad hoc was the direction, so that ad hoc being the informal committee. The application dates, this can be, council, you can set that on however you want. We came up with a concept of starting the application process where the council would nominate by Monday, May 20th for appointment at the next meeting on May 28th, and then start meeting in June As stated in the staff report, what wasn't clear on that discussion from March was what the stated purpose or goal at the outcome or at the end of that first review period timeframe. Is that something that the council would like the committee to come up with? Call it a goal statement or a mission statement or an outcome, or is that something the council wants to provide direction on what the committee's purpose or mission is? That wasn't clear in reviewing the direction from March. So I would ask for council to provide staff some direction, one, on whether the dates and timeframes are appropriate, and then two, who is responsible for setting the goal and purpose of the committee. So look for council direction.
Are there any comments?
I do have a comment. You know, I believe this was in the right direction of things that the council needs to go. But, you know, are we going to let the committee, or the committee needs to provide framework and guiding principles? Because I haven't seen, or maybe I read it in the wrong place, what the framework is and what the guiding principles of this committee is. Because, you know, I'd ask for, you know, a little bit more teeth into this thing. You know, whether it's just going to be citizen volunteers for code enforcement, or they actually, you know, the idea is to clean up parks and clean up neighborhoods and, you know, remove signs from poles, or, you know, things like that. What is the goal of this committee? So
I think that's what his question is what's the goal? I mean, do we want to set that? Do we want them to set it? I think that's the question at hand.
I was sitting there thinking, I mean, you know, with the TOT, we had a purpose. Remember that?
Right.
Councilman Moreno. You know, and it was going to last for a short period of time, right? Once we figured out how we're going to implement the TOT, you know, how we got the money to use. You know, I'm almost sitting there thinking maybe it's almost like these individuals, community members, get together and they map out kind of what we do here in the community here, and what will happen for the whole year. Love series, you know, maybe each month pick a park, clean a park. I just see that if we have a true committee, and I understand what you're stating, if we have a true committee, then we're going to have another night that Tom's going to be doing something, or Mr. Wells, or maybe Mr. Wise, Chief, it'll fall under your category, you know. I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking, and it was a great idea, and it is a great idea, and I think we need to really pay attention to what we do. And every single day I pick up garbage at the high school because kids leave their garbage, and when the bell rings, they just leave it, right? So we're trying to beautify that aspect of it, but at the same time, too, we want to have a neat city, a clean city, a city that people would like to drive into and say, this is awesome. Well, we already have a lot of groups that do that. I know, don't you pick up garbage on the freeway?
I don't know. I'm too old to bend over like that anymore. But
Okay.
I do take care of some parks.
Right. You know, I mean, I just see that in a sense, I'm not going to say it's a waste of staff time. At the end of the day, there's people that are out there that are supposed to be ensuring that our city is dynamite. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I could see something happening like early on for a month or something, or people got together for like 3 months and planned out what's going to happen for the whole year. But anyway.
Any other comments before I open it up to the public? Vice Mayor Rhino?
I personally believe the Beautification Ad Hoc Committee is a good idea. And I almost kind of believe that once they're set up, that maybe just like the TOT committee, they get together and they decide what they want to do for the city. Do they want to try and get volunteers together, or are they going to physically go out and do things? But I think we need a Beautification Ad Hoc Committee, and I don't know that initially I was thinking I had already proposed the idea for Adopt a Park, and I didn't really want the committee to take that over because I'm afraid the committee would get so wound up with committee stuff that they wouldn't get the park out there and start cleaning up. I want to see results instead of just talking, is what I really want to see. So I do support the idea of the ad hoc committee, and maybe they do take over the Adopt-A-Park. I'm not sure about that, but we need to do something, and if we can find enough volunteers that are willing to sit on a committee to do that, I think we should.
Any more comment? All right, I'll open it up to the public. Anyone like to comment on this item?
Good evening, Renee Ledbetter with the Ceres Chamber of Commerce. Before you create another committee, I just wanted to remind everyone that I believe Dave's group has adopted a portion of the highway. The Ceres Chamber has adopted a portion of the highway. I know the Garden Club is currently out there, and they have volunteers who I'm sure would contribute to beautifying our city. Maybe if the city could help contribute with materials and flowers and things like that, rather than develop another committee so that staff doesn't have to man another committee. There are existing groups out there. Love Ceres used to be in place. That kind of disappeared. I know it's difficult for the chamber to get volunteers to come out and volunteer for highway cleanup. Just recently, we had about 7 or 8 citizens, including your own city staff, Tom Westbrook, came out, and we picked up 30 bags of trash just off of 2 on-way, off-way ramps, and that's just 2 ramps that we were able to hit that morning. So there's plenty of trash out there that needs to be picked up. We just need more volunteers. I don't think we need another committee. We just need more volunteers, more people who are willing to walk the walk and go out there and pick up trash, plant flowers. If the city wants to invest any of the TOT money, maybe we get these organizations together and identify the materials and the things that we might need so that we can beautify the city. I think it's a great idea. Honestly, I don't go out and pick up trash because I have nothing else to do, but I really, I take pride in my city. I take pride in making sure that Ceres looks good. And we did it right before the street fair because we knew we had people coming from out of the area, and we wanted to make a good impression. So I commend you all for looking into this. But maybe we already have enough groups out there. If we bring them together and collaborate, we could get the job done.
But maybe that's what we need, is a beautification committee that can bring them all together. Because if you've got one group over here focused on something and another one here, but they're not all focused, maybe.
Or maybe we just invite them all to a meeting and.
The beautification committee meeting.
Yeah, okay.
Just one thing along that line, Renee, that I wanted to share. I think the council has seen some updates from the city manager, but both he, myself, and Mr. Westbrook met with the Big Valley Grace Church, who is entertaining potentially leasing the community center to test out how a new church in our city would work. One thing they shared with us is, I believe they said they had 1,600 members from Ceres that attend their North or Modesto location, of which over 470 are active members. To put that in perspective, they were actually, at least they told us, the founding people that started Love Modesto. They have a ton of faith-based things that help out the community. They were very excited to look at opening up a facility in Ceres to get their parishioners to be able to stay local and then hopefully expand beyond that. And I could see that as an entity that would love to grasp hold of something like this and to take part in it. So when we started talking about this, that we weren't aware that was occurring. But now that I am aware that they're actively engaged and looking for it, I think there could be someone that does take that role that you're talking about. I mean, I don't know which way this body will go tonight, but that is another potential option as well. So
That's great. Thank you.
Councilmember Condit?
Sure. The most important aspect of the committee is that the mandatory participation of our code enforcement department. So without the participation of the code enforcement department and the communication between the citizens and that entity, the committee will have no effect. So that is the point of the committee, is to increase and to bridge the gap between our citizens and code enforcement, and to select sites in the city and target those sites and strategically try to come up with ways to combat blight and also encourage civil engagement. So,
just a couple questions. So mandatory involvement, does that mean, is your thought that the committee would give direction to the code enforcement? Because I could see that being a little bit
I don't think direction is the right word. I just think that they coordinate efforts on how do we combat blight and target areas that are routine for illegal dumpings and things like that, to try to come up with creative ways to combat blight and clean up the city. So it's just about bridging the communication gap directly with the citizenry and our code enforcement department, and try to come up with solutions collectively together and be inclusive to our citizens. And so that's the point.
Okay. Any other comments? If none, I'll look for direction.
I move that we move forward with the beautification committee.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Aye.
Councilmember DeRosa?
No.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
No.
And Mayor Vieira?
No.
Motion fails. Sorry, I got thrown off. Motion fails, 3-2.
Okay, moving on to discussion item number 14, refunding of the 2009 water revenue bonds and 2009 wastewater revenue bonds for debt service savings. Ms. Dean?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. At this time, I'd like to introduce Doug Anderson and Rick Brandes from Urban Futures and Brandes Tallman. They will be coordinating this if we decide to go through, and they'll give you a brief overview.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. We have been working with staff to identify existing bond debt of the city at higher interest rates for candidates for refunding. We have two candidates that we have located, 2009 water revenue bonds and 2009 wastewater revenue bonds. Those rates currently go as high as 5% out to the longest term. Today's interest rate would be approximately 3.65%. When those bonds were issued in 2009, there was a 10-year call protection period. We still have a year left on that. However, we can negotiate a rate lock agreement with a lender. We can lock in today's rates, simply delay the closing until next April. So that's the plan. So we would like to get authorization to move ahead with that, prepare the documents. We would bring them back to you on the June 10th meeting after the documents have been filled out with the current, or with the locked rates. You would know the rate at that time. The 2018 Tax Act did away with advance refundings. Previously, bond issuers were able to advance refund bonds, but we are not able to do that now. So we need to keep the promise to the existing bondholders that they still have their bonds out for 10 years. But with this rate lock agreement, we can lock in today's rates and don't have to wait a year and take that interest rate risk. Rates could be the same. Most likely, they'll probably be a little higher. So be happy to answer any questions again.
I've read through this. Tell me why we wouldn't want to do this.
Exactly. Right.
Okay. So I didn't miss anything then.
Yeah, unless you thought rates were going to go down in a year.
1.75 million or something like that?
Yes,
in
exactly.
Savings?
Yeah, that's the total savings.
No brainer.
Yeah.
Seems like.
It's savings to our ratepayers as well, right? Because that's what's built into the rates for both our water and wastewater. So this is something that we would see a benefit that's, as you said, a no-brainer.
Okay.
And it does not extend our terms.
It does not extend the term, no. So the savings is simply from the interest rate differential, and a little bit of the savings comes from using the prior reserve funds. The new lender won't require a reserve fund, so we can take the old cash reserve funds, that is your money, and help buy down the new issue. So that creates even more savings.
Ms. Dean?
I'd like to just interject too that Jeremy, Public Works Director Demas, and I have been working on this. Is also will be a benefit when we go for the funding for the water surface treatment project.
Great. Okay, are there any questions before I open it up to the public? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone on the audience that would like to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, it's a discussion item, so do you need direction or just our concurrence or a motion? Okay.
I move to approve refunding of the 2009 water revenue bonds and 2009 water revenue bonds for debit service savings.
Second.
Wastewater.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Aye.
Councilmember DeRosa?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Councilmember referrals, is there anyone on the council that would like to have an item placed on a future agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to reports. I have nothing to report. Councilmember Klein?
Nothing.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilmember Drossett?
Nothing.
Councilmember Condit?
Sure. I hold my office hours every Saturday from 12 to 2 here at the Community Center. I look forward to seeing you there.
Okay. All right, Ms. Dean looks like she's not here, so Tom? Nope. Mr. Wells?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. The Measure H committee will be meeting next Wednesday on their quarterly meeting. Also, Measure H, there are currently the terms ending for 3 individuals on the Measure H Oversight Committee. We have put on our website the application for that, for those vacancies. One of the individuals has indicated the desire to be reappointed, so there likely will be at least 2 vacancies, but the council will get to weigh in on how that process works, with one who has served a 3-year term would like to would be considered for a reappointment. So the idea is to open that recruitment today. It will run through June 7th and then come back to the City Council on the June 24th meeting for appointment, depending on how many applications we receive. We may do an interview process depending on the number of applicants that are received. So if anybody's interested in the Measure H Oversight Committee, that information will be is on our website today, and contact the city clerk or myself if you have any questions. Also, we do have a vacancy on the Measure L, so that's a half-cent sales tax that is county-wide. There's a oversight committee that runs through STANCOG, Stanislaus Council of Governments. We do have a vacancy on that oversight committee that represents Ceres. So if you're a Ceres resident, you're eligible to serve on the committee. That information is on our website as well. As listed on the council agenda, our next meeting is on Thursday for a special budget workshop that will start 5:30 here in this room. It will be recorded, so folks will be able to see that. Also was referenced the refunding of those bonds. Significant milestone in the SRWA, Stanislaus Regional Water Authority. Next week we will be interviewing the final proposals for the 3 candidates to design build for the construction of that project. So an exciting milestone to know now what the actual proposed numbers are for the project. So that is a very big step in the overall project. Lastly, I want to mention that our next regular City Council meeting will actually be on Tuesday, the 28th, not a Monday because of the Monday holiday for Memorial Day. So city offices will be closed on the 27th.
Tom?
Just wanted to remind the council that this Thursday, May 16th, the Chamber of Commerce will be holding the Ag Business Luncheon for scholarships for the high schools. That's at 11:30 a.m. at Diamond Bar Arena. If the council would like to go, please let the city clerk know so that we can get you a spot at the table.
Okay. Daniel? Rick? Kevin?
I just wanted to remind our residents to get out and mow or disc your weeds or if you have any vacant lots to get out there. Today we had a 5 to 6 acre fire on Redwood that threatened several homes. Chief Serpa was on it. He was the incident commander, and we actually had 15 fire apparatus out there, and luckily we were able to stop it before it got into any homes. But we've been busy out notifying those folks. We've been calling them. We have a lot in the process, but there's still a lot of fields out there that haven't been disked yet, and we've been advertising it in the paper to try to get the word out. It's also on our website. So those folks watching at home, those in the audience, if you could remind your neighbors to disk those fields, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dean, you were out when I went through, nothing? Okay. Ms. McCoy? Jeremy? Supervisor DeMartini? Nothing? We beat you up enough already, huh? Okay, with that, we will move to closed session. We have 2 items, conference with labor negotiator and then public employee performance evaluation.